getting your clients like trust, like garnering it and building and developing that trust with them. Because if they don't believe you, like decisions don't come easy. You've got to fight tooth and nail with them. You've got to explain things in intricate detail. You have to re-explain things because they don't trust you. Why would they? You never talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
You never give them full answers to anything, and they never understand what's going on. So they're nervous and they're scared. You got to fix that stuff.
Well, hello and welcome to the J. Sterling Hughes Show, where we share the secrets and strategies of how we are building a rapidly growing law practice. You know, for the past 9 years, we have grown from 0 attorneys to 25 and over $15 million in revenue. And my guest today is a big part of that. And we commit here to you all to share with you everything that we're doing with hopes that you can take that and recontextualize that. And Jeff Morrell, one of our senior partners that leads up our Fox Valley office, is my guest today. And I'm so proud to work with you, Jeff. I remember when you joined our firm back in 2018, how excited we were to have you come aboard, but we really were just not prepared for the record-setting performance that you've been putting in year after year after year. You've set the pace for so many in our firm with the way that you've managed your practice and shown our team what's possible. So for everyone's context here, Jeff set the record, the initial record, which was actually just beaten this past year by one of his teammates for collections in a year. And that was in 2022, Jeff collected $1 million. That's money in the door. That's not billed. Okay. So that's money in the door, cash on the barrelhead in a given year. That's what Jeff was able to do. And he did that without compromising his time and his client service. In fact, I think, Jeff, your client service score has even improved year over year back in 22. And so I've asked you to be on this call, and I know you were reluctant at first, but you're gracious and you've come here to kind of share how you did that. So first, is if you can give everyone just a little bit of context on how'd you get to Sterling? And then what was it like for those first couple of years as you built up to your monster year in 22?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I got to Sterling from working at a general practice law firm in West Bend and interviewed for a job probably a year or two into my employ there at Sterling, and then didn't take the job. Wasn't locationally geographically where I wanted to be. And then I got a call from you I think a year later with a job where I was living at the time, and took it pretty much right away. Was super excited to work with a firm that was changing the way that things were traditionally done, because a lot of the things that we were doing in hourly practice just didn't make sense to me. So that's how I ended up at Sterling. And from there, it was finding ways that the fixed fee system is really beneficial to family law clients, and then also the practice. And that really excited me. And I haven't stopped working on that problem since I started here. I just loved it.
When you say a problem, what do you mean by problem? How to serve clients efficiently in that billing model?
Right. How to produce good revenue and good customer service at the same time, minimizing waste in your own time and your own efforts, and hopefully in ways that are transferable to others. And I suppose by problem, I just mean that how do you make fixed fee work as a practice, as a model?
Yeah. Well, you've helped us solve that problem quite a bit. So as you know, back in 15, when we switched over to it from hourly, we just did kind of a Band-Aid rip approach. And we just said, okay, February 1st of 2015, actually 16, we were just going to make that cut over, and we were going to do it based on guesses. We guessed at what would work, not knowing, and really paying the price for that for quite a few years before we fixed that. It just in the past few years. So in 18, when you joined us, we were still very much in the, clinching, trying to figure out what was going to work and what wasn't going to work in fixed fee. So you like the model because it gave clients certainty. It helped cases get over quicker because we weren't trying to manufacture hours. What else did you see that was appealing to you when you first joined?
I mean, one of the things that really worked well for me is that I'm not good with executive function stuff, like keeping track of my time. I remember being hourly and just like going through my email and then entering in time entries for all of those emails from like a month ago, because I was just bad at it. So it played to my strengths, which I just loved.
Yeah.
That spoke to me in a big way. But I just never had that sense as a lawyer that I'm going to be really aggressive and domineering and issue all, subpoenas and discovery and make the case really hairy and complicated to make the other person bend to my will. Like, that never appealed to me.
Mhm.
And it's not effective in family law. Maybe it is in like civil litigation, I don't know. But in the context of family law, it didn't make sense to me why all these lawyers were doing that. Almost should have been obvious to them that their clients didn't want that. They weren't serving their client desires, let alone like what they think that their client wants. It's like the client definitely does not want this.
Yeah. So what adjustments did you have to make switching from an hourly mentality or an hourly billing approach to the fixed fee approach? And right away, I'm talking like week one. What was that like?
That's a great question. And I'm not quite sure I know the answer to it. I've been doing this for over 5 years now, but I've been doing fixed fee longer than I was doing hourly.
Well, I know you're a numbers guy. So do you recall what your collections were in 2019?
No.
Okay. I recall that they were in the 800s in 2020.
Right. And I would have beaten Holly's record in 2019.
Okay. Now I know Holly's going to be like, fiercely competitive when she hears that, but she was kind of moving into a management role then. So you had a little bit of an advantage on her.
Well, I beat her record in that year, like from, I don't know when she said it, years prior.
Yeah.
But now you have me interested. Now I'm looking.
Okay.
What year? 2019?
Yeah, I'm just trying to build up to your big year in 22. So what was the trajectory like in 19? That was your first full year.
Yeah. And it was really a transitional year for us. I felt like we were figuring out fixed fee as a basic idea, like right along with you. Like I was figuring it out being in this new role, but Sterling as a firm was just figuring it out. Right. 528 is what I did.
Wow. Okay. Your first full year did 528. And the methodology that we followed back in 2019 was our fixed fees were based on events happening in a case. So if an event got pushed, then our representation just continued right along for as long as the court felt it was appropriate to push that event. So that was a problem, wasn't it? So so that led to a lot of long cases and low effective efficiency on those cases. So that was 19. Do you recall what you did in our COVID year of 20?
I want to say 826.
Okay. And then I know 21 was a down year for you with some distractions outside of work, right?
Right.
So coming into 22, which was your big year, walk us through your mentality. Where was your confidence at, and how were you looking at how you would approach that year?
I really started thinking about it like October, November, started putting together a game plan for what this vision was in my head of doing $1 million in a year. And it really didn't seem super possible. It was really moderating my expectations and mentally like envisioning myself on December 20th being like, this isn't going to happen. I'm going to be like $10,000 short. And it's just going to break me. And, with goal setting, there's all these tricks that you can employ to make sure that you're staying motivated and staying on track. But I mostly tried to like benchmark my stats, my metrics, and keep an eye on where I was relative to my target for the end of the year. I had 18 different ways to project my collections every single day. And if I'm making these assumptions, then it's going to work out this way. And making some changes to my case composition, because I did have some of those old fee agreements that were event-based that were using a lot of my time and were for disproportionately low dollar amounts for those agreements.
Just to give everyone context, Jeff, that was in 21 that we made the transition away from the event-based fee agreements to more or less a time-based fixed fee agreements, right?
Right. Well, I think it was in 2022, but I had started doing it a year before we implemented it.
Got it. Okay.
As soon as I heard that idea, I was like, I'm doing that. And I changed every single fee agreement that I sent out to be number of days. So that was a response to like certain counties. They don't, the event that we had for Shade 1, right, was the first court event after the 120-day waiting period had passed. And some of our counties up here don't have that court, like a standard automatically set court event after the 120 days. So you'd be stuck working a case for, but potentially like a year or longer for a fee quote that was envisioned to be about 5 months. And so as soon as I heard that idea, I was like, yep, I'm doing that on all of my cases. So I still had some stragglers left over, and so I worked my butt off on getting those cases resolved. And those are the ones that I would tend to avoid because they're old or they're stale and I've lost interest.
Going into 22 and actually throughout the entire year, do you recall what your approximate case volume number was? Like how many cases at one time
About 80.
Okay, so you carried about 80 files at one time.
Yeah.
Okay. And then going into the year, how did you decide to manage your time to allow you to have that kind of production?
I don't think I had a consistent strategy for my time management throughout the year. I think it probably ebbed and flowed a little bit because there are certainly times when I was working 100 hours a week. That was the only thing that I did, but probably fewer of those than there were in 2021. But I maintained a focus on like getting good rest, getting good sleep. I didn't take away from my like personal time, like taking vacations and things like that. I kept that a priority. I'm a big believer in that kind of thing. But one of the things that I think I probably did do consistently was like, I think about when I'm going to do stuff, not just like when I'm going to do certain work. Like my difficult emails that I have to write, I don't wait for the end of the day to do those because they just won't get done. Right? I work on them early in the morning when I've got the most like willpower, so to speak, or the most motivation to actually get that stuff done, even though I'd rather be working on different things. I know later in the day, I'm not going to want to do it and I'm just going to push it off and I can go on indefinitely. So, and then I'd save like where I need to be creative, like think about case strategy or things like that. I dedicate that time into the afternoons where I'm better with that kind of thing. Try to catch my clients earlier in the day rather than in the evening because they're more emotionally fatigued and stressed out in the afternoons and the evenings. Things like that I've been pretty consistent with over the years. Has been really effective strategies. There's a book called The Magic of When or The Science of When. Might be by Steven Pinker, but I can't remember. That speaks to that a little bit. What you're going to do is important, also when you're going to do it.
What else did you do to prepare and to manage your time throughout the year?
I took a really hardcore approach to conserving my time. Like I put a dollar value on an hour of my time. Like what's that worth to me? And it was a very high number. I can't recall, probably $2,000 an hour. When you think about like, if you dedicated that to work, you'd get the money, but also like your retirement contributions compound over time. So like after those things in, right? And so I don't know if I ever actually held to that, but if it was cheaper to hire someone to do something, and I grew up in a house where we did everything ourselves. And my dad could have afforded to like outsource all of the home repairs, and he loves doing that stuff himself. And so that's kind of transferred over to me. I have to fight my own instinct to fix stuff, like work on my car or something like that. Like someone else is going to do it. You know, it's an Amazon return. If it's $25 item, it's more than $25 in time for me to go and do that. I'm just keeping it or throwing it or giving it away. So not wasting my time outside of work was a big part of that.
So as you got into the year, you mentioned you had a few 100-hour work weeks. That's really unsustainable. So out of the 52 weeks in the year, what was your average work time like? How much time did you put in a typical week at work, doing work things?
Pretty standard, like 40 to 50, 40 to 60, somewhere in there.
All right. So these big, huge weeks that would come along, were they trial weeks or something, or?
No, I mean, sometimes I would think, yeah, like I've got a trial and I also have work and I forgot to factor in time for like prep and things like that. But trial weeks are usually actually like pretty low workload weeks for me. I like to spend time like working it over in my head a bunch of times. The administrative aspect of the trial prep, usually I've already done at that point. And then after the trial, actually, as soon as the judge is issuing the decision, I get an adrenal crash that's like, it puts me on my butt. I'm in bed for the next at least half a day after a trial's over. So I know I'm not going to get much done that week.
Yeah.
So sometimes self-inflicted, pre-programmed too much into 1 week. Sometimes it'd be the end of the month and I was trying to hit a number and it was just critically important for me to do that.
Interesting. So when it came to client management, did you make any adjustments in 22 that you hadn't prior years?
Absolutely. Because before 22, I had visions that the key to high dollar collections was almost a client is the enemy type of mentality where I'm like, I'm going to minimize the amount of time I spend talking to my clients. I'm going to keep phone calls short to a minimum, do everything via email, and really try to like force things through. And that was 100% wrong. I was completely wrong about that. The rub I found out is in getting your clients like trust, like garnering it and building and developing that trust with them, because if they don't believe you, like decisions don't come easy. You've got to fight tooth and nail with them. You've got to explain things in intricate detail. You have to re-explain things because they don't trust you. Why would they? You never talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
You never give them full answers to anything, and they never understand what's going on. So they're nervous and they're scared. You got to fix that stuff.
Yeah.
That's absolutely critical. When you've got clients who are well-centered, understand what's going on, understand their options, and trust you, then they make decisions way faster. They come to compromises way easier. You're helping them get out of their own way to a certain extent in that way as well. Like I used to just say, well, that's a personal problem. You need to deal with it. Like that you're upset at your or at your wife, and that doesn't help them. And it doesn't help the case move faster. It doesn't help them get to the next step of their life any quicker.
So because of that methodology, did you feel like the amount of client touches that you had to make during a typical case went down?
In 22?
Correct.
No, I think that probably went up. I would engage with my clients more than I used to. And the number of touches is probably lower, but like instead of 20 emails, I'd have 4 emails and a phone call.
Okay. So, but were your cases concluded faster because of those client interactions?
I think so. I don't have the metrics on like my case velocity from like year to year, but
yeah,
if I did, I would expect them to show that.
Okay. So as the numbers start rolling in January, February, March, April, what was your mentality like? Any point were you off pace that you're a little concerned you're going to miss it?
Yeah, I was very concerned in April, May. At that time of the year, I had been putting up good numbers, I believe, up to that point in the year. I wasn't on pace, but more concerning was that my case composition and the ways that I assess how much that's going to project how much that's going to result in collections was really low. And it was not at the number that I had thought that it needed to be at. And we had just gotten through, we're into May and we're going into the summer, and everything really slows down in the summertime in terms of filing of new cases. And so I was really worried at that point.
Mm-hmm. So you get into the latter part of the year, October, November, December. At what point did you know you're going to hit it?
By the end of the summer.
Okay. Because you could project out your current caseload. And
yeah, I knew at that point it was like, this is entirely possible. There's no question that if I wanted to happen, I can make it happen.
Yeah.
It might be close. And then, I don't know, my productivity is kind of like a gas. It'll fill whatever size container I give it. So, I mean, it was, I don't know what day we hit it on, but it was end of December for sure. I could have hit it sooner, but it was like, that's why one of the things I don't like about goals is you have to meet goals to motivate you for the next one, but they also serve as something of a floor for me. So if you say, Jeff, I only need you to make 50,000 per month, then that's what I'm going to do. If there's not sufficient motivation for me to go higher than that, you give me 2 weeks to do something that takes 2 days, I'm going to do it at the end. That's a problem I have not been able to fix.
You've got a little bit of a flair for the dramatic, so I wouldn't put it past you to kind of wait till the last week of the year to kind of hit it, just to have the drama and building interest.
I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a man of refined taste, Jeff. I've learned that from my years with you. So what did you do to celebrate your achievement?
Oh God. No, I got to think about that. I know I bought a new pair of Jordans. That was when I was promoted to partner. So I know there was Dom Perignon involved. That's like our traditional celebratory champagne up in Fox, at least. And I think that I went to bed that night. Like it was that same adrenal crash.
Yeah. And what was your final tally? Do you recall? In 2022?
$1,042,000.
Okay. So you went way past it. You didn't just.
Oh, that wasn't way past it.
Why?
No, I'm like,
$40,000 past.
Is what I thought.
Okay. What I think is fascinating is not only the fact that you did that and you put a plan together and you executed the entire year, which that sort of repetitive execution is really hard to maintain, but you also opened the expectations with other lawyers on our team, and you pioneered and showed other lawyers what's possible. I remember the first time you hit 100,000 collections in a month, it was a massive deal. And it's become to the point now where it's a ho-hum, it's a non-event at our firm today when the lawyer will do that. So it takes that first person breaking through that barrier for a lot of people to believe that. So Jeff, that can't be understated. Another example of that is one of your teammates, Tiffany Biederman, broke your record in 23. So how did you feel when you saw her do that? Because I know you were cheering for her, but it's kind of like the record. You don't want it to be broken, but you know it's going to be. So how did that go for you?
I was elated. I was like so thrilled for her. I know that was important to her to do that. And so that she was able to accomplish it the way that she did, and she had a ton of grace about it. I think she could have shoved it down my throat a little bit more, but it didn't eat at me too much, but now it's starting to.
Okay.
Now we're into the new year, and I'm like, I wonder if I can do, like 1-2 this year. How do I make that happen? And it's become a fun kind of interplay, like challenge in my head, because now I've got another teammate, Michelle Gordon, who wants to hit $1 million this year.
Okay.
And so you're totally right. It's contagious.
Yeah. I don't think you can do 1-2 though. That's a little out of reach, honestly.
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got too many meetings.
Too many podcast guest appearances here. This is like a $2,000 podcast now that I'm thinking about it. Well, Jeff, it's been a joy to work with you and watch you set the pace and to lead your team, and how you've just really come alongside your teammates in Fox has been really special this past year. So I want to thank you publicly for that.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
An honor, really. I love this team, and I love Sterling and working here, but nothing but exciting.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someone watching this podcast will be inspired and do that in their firm. So
yeah,
it'll live on. Well, thank you. Have a great day.
You too.